Situated in a quiet glen southwest of Elgin in the Highlands sits a community of Benedictine monks. They have called Pluscarden their home for nearly 70 years after rebuilding the abbey from its ruined state after it was burned to the ground by the Wolf of Badenoch. The monks have dedicated their lives to servitude and prayers, as well as the restoration and upkeep of the abbey.
I was 21 when I entered, and I'm 54 now, so I've definitely lived. This is what's the normal life for me. Before I entered the monastery, I was a student, so it was in my final year at university that I sort of got the idea of coming here, and I came as a guest the very next day after I'd finished my final exams. And then I asked if I could join, and then I entered about 2 months later. I think there wasn't anything about it that surprised me. I'd read quite a bit about it and spoken to other people, so it was pretty well what I'd imagined it to be.
Brother Michael has been a monk at Pluscarden for 33 years and used to tend the vegetable gardens of the abbey. Now he is the cellarer and manages the work that needs done in and around the abbey.
The rule of St Benedict is the rule that we follow sort of in our day-to-day life. It was written by a saint, I suppose an Italian saint in the 6th century, and it sort of describes every aspect of the daily life from your timetable to what everybody does. And it, in course of time, it spread across all the sort of Western Europe as the main monastic rule.
The Rule of St Benedict is made up of 73 short chapters, both spiritual and administrative. Some chapters detail how to be obedient, others detail how to manage a monastery. The monks of Pluscarden follow this rule, which includes their hours of prayer and their chores. Brother Joseph works in the abbey's gardens, which supports the monks throughout the year.
Oh, right, okay, good. So welcome to Pluscarden Abbey's vegetable and fruit garden. Here it is. We grow a great proportion of our fruit and veg. We're not entirely self-sufficient, but pretty much actually. There's not many fruit and veg that we actually buy in. Brother Michael, who you know, he was head gardener here for a great number of years, and he's a great fan of apples. And so any tree that you see pretty much in this fruit garden is an apple tree. We claim to have over 100 different varieties of apple, and I went round with Brother Michael last year, actually going round each tree, because I've just taken over from the garden last year, and I haven't counted them up, but I think it's pretty much there. We do very well for apples indeed. Well, this is the funny time of year, because last season's, everything that we put in last season's kind of coming to an end. So this time of year, we're kind of treating the ground for next year's crops, ploughing in manure. But the cage that you can see there is called our brassica cage, or the cabbage family. And the cage is to keep pheasants out. They're voracious predators when it comes to greenery. So, so the cage is there to keep the birds out. And inside we have rather pathetic specimens of Brussels sprouts and kale, because last year it didn't do very well at all. So I've told Colin, who's treating the field at the moment, to put plenty of manure on the brassica area this year. So, so hopefully we'll be much better.
Brother Joseph kindly showed us the greenhouses where he's growing spinach, Chinese cabbage and various other vegetables that the monks use to sustain themselves.
And then in here we've got some very tender seedling leeks.
Leeks?
Yeah, just erupting out of the surface. So they take quite a long time to come to maturity before you plant them out.
So how long do they have to stay in here then?
In here, they'll probably be in here probably about a month or two.
Okay.
Probably 2.
And then they go out, and then how long does it take before you have to harvest them?
Well, leeks are very slow growing, so you sow them quite early on. And so we've sown them in March. So before we actually start eating them, you're probably looking at October, November. But the great thing about leeks, they're very hardy, so they can overwinter in the ground. And actually they do keep growing. So they're a great little crop. Again, you've just got to look for rabbits and pheasants and keep them off them. So we've got a great variety of netting that we use to keep them out. To keep them out, yeah, to keep the pests out. So these are the strawberry plants here. And we sell quite a few.
Sell them?
Yeah, we sell quite a few of the strawberries because we get far more than we can eat, really.
Oh, right, okay.
So we sell them out the front of the shop. No, they were very good last year, even if I do say so myself.
The Abbey's restoration is funded by money donated from visitors to the area. The shop is stocked with souvenirs like books and CDs and paintings by the monks. When available, the Abbey sells strawberries fresh out of its garden and honey made by the Abbey's apiary. Steve Fennell, an obla of the Abbey, visits the Abbey regularly to help the monks with the honey.
That'll then be processed through the wax machine, boiled up basically, and taking any of the bits and pieces out of it, and then that'll be made into candles.
Oh.
It used to make it into floor polish. Beeswax floor polish. It's not very pleasant looking at this stage because it's got to be filtered, but there's the wax starting to form on the top now, and underneath all that is pure honey. So I've done 2 of those, and I've kept a bit back just to let you see what we do, and that's the way it comes out of the combs as pieces, and that's all that there is honey.
Wow. Okay.
Good. Yeah, better when it's melting. You get a bit of wax with it as well.
That's nice.
But
it's really sweet.
Yep. You just plonk it on. See, there's wire in it as well, which is when it's in the comb, that keeps the whole thing together. And as that melts down, it just goes into the big bucket at the side. And once that's settled and down and becomes solidified back to wax and honey, then it's just, and that'll eventually start flowing, I hope.
So how often do you have to do this for the beehives?
Usually at the end of each season, whatever's left that can't be commercially put in, oh, there she comes. It's just for breaking it down, so it's okay. If not, it'll take ages to melt, because it is just pure wax.
So you use the wax for the candles?
Yes,
And you sell it in the shop as well, yeah?
Yes, and a lot of it goes to their own use, and round about the altar to Mary, you'll see small candles that small people use, small ones, and a lot of this will be used for those as well. You know, it's just a continuous supply of them. There's some of the wax we've made into bits of candle and stuff.
So how can you tell the difference between this kind of honey and the heather?
I'll show you just now. Thing against the heather honey. This is a comb of heather, and if you were near me, Simon's already smelt it, and you can tell the real difference. It is just a fantastic smell. But what I'll do, there's a wire runs right through which holds the comb together, and that's why you'll see at certain times there's a bit there. and then you just, once you've cut it like that, pop it in there, and that gives you whatever ounces that you've got
Wow.
in. Now, he said you like honey. Hope you don't get too sticky.
Thank
You
you.
probably will. That you can see the taste. I know it's waxy, but that will give you the actual taste of it. And again, you just take a push down.
So what do you use this honey for?
This is for
and the
sale.
wax?
This is for sale in the shop, down at the front of the abbey here. Got a bit of wire. You're not quick enough. But that's basically what you do with the head of honey. And then what happens is, whatever's left around the edges and the residue in here that's melted because of using the hot water, that gets put into a nice little dish for the table, and it goes down to the brothers, and they get the use of it then, you know. So nothing at all gets wasted. Everything in the abbey, whether it be the garden, whether it be the bee house, whether it be the shop, nothing's ever wasted.
Well, it is basically a private cemetery, and that the purpose is it is meant to be for the monks. But from the day that we started, there have been a lot of people who've helped us, people who've worked here and you know, been volunteers and things. So at the start, when they first asked if they might have a plot in the cemetery, we agreed. But the hard part now is refusing people who think, you know, they really ought to have a plot in the cemetery. And so if you're thinking of starting a monastery, I suggest that you don't allow other people in at the start. just keep the cemetery for the monks. Yes, so it's basically a private cemetery, which sometimes we let other people. Usually relatives of monks can be buried here if they ask, but certainly parents, things like that. So my parents are buried here, and then others have got parents and brothers and sisters buried here too. Yes. Yeah.
I bet that's a nice connection to the abbey.
Yes, yeah, yeah.
More at home.
Yes, well, I mean, it depends on the family, I suppose. I mean, most parents are quite happy that you know, that their sons come here, but some aren't. Some don't like it at all, you know, or they refuse to have anything to do with this. So, so it can be a bit difficult. Father Morris, yes, he was one of the original monks that came, the Pluscarden pioneers, and he was my novice master for a long time. He was the community novice master for about 20 years, and he was very fit in his old age, but rather forgetful and sort of he had a touch of dementia. It's hard to say exactly what, but his short-term memory was poor. But he used to love walking a lot, so most days he would go out for a walk. And on one day he just went out for a walk and he never came back. He was last seen heading out onto sort of forestry land, sort of wilderness country really. And we think that probably he sort of carried on going until the paths petered out, and then sort of tried to get on to the nearest road that he could see, and wandering through sort of undergrowth and tumbled rocks and stuff, he would perhaps maybe had a stroke or a heart attack, something like that. But they never found any trace of him. But it isn't as surprising as some people imagine. I mean, there is a lot of very difficult countryside out there. I mean, I myself tried to sort of search in the area where it disappeared, but you shouldn't really go there on your own. You know, and it's out of reach of any. I think you wouldn't even get a phone signal out there. So it's I sent a group of Boy Scouts to look for him once, and they spent a day and then said no, he won't be found. So that was in 2005.
Even through the drama and troubles the Abbey has had over the past 60 years, the restoration of the Abbey is always at the forefront of their mind.
The roof of the tower was restored in 1954. The roof of the transepts of the church was restored in 1960. In 1982, the roof of the choir went on. Then in 1990, the women's guest house was built. 1993, this guest house, where now the men's guest house, was completed. And then in about 2008, we restored some of the cloisters. So it's continuing all the time. The one who's been here the longest is Brother Adrian, and he came in the I think the late 50s, early 60s, and he's now 89. So most of the time he worked in the garden. So he was the main one who drove the tractor, and before that he used to drive a plough horse. So he's very good at, yes, he loved horses. The newest one is the chap wearing black, Paul. So we have, but before you become a monk, there's quite a long sort of preparatory period. So that you can, first of all, you can come as a guest just to see what it looks like. Then you can stay for a month. So you join in everything, so you actually get to see what it's like from the inside. And then we say then you have to go away again to think about it.
When you feel you have a vocation to join the monks of Pluscarden, you go through many periods of visits to see if you are for the life. Father Martin, who has been a monk for 21 years, tried 3 times to join the monastic life.
Oh, well, about 20 years before that, I tried twice before that. The first time this is a Catholic monastery actually, so anyway, when I first arrived, I was interested in the monastic life, but I was a bit naive really, and I met, I don't know if you've heard, there was a monk here who disappeared.
Yes, we were speaking about
Father Morris,
yeah.
God rest him. He was the first monk I met, and he said, oh, by the way, I was James then, we're given a new name, you see. He said, oh, James, but you're not a Catholic. You need to go away and think about whether you want to become a Catholic. I thought they'd just sort of say, oh, well, what size do you take? And I could try the life. But, and he said, you've no experience, so I'll go away and do something else. So anyway, I went away for a year. I went on VSO to Sierra Leone. Well, that was before the war and all the other, and I've forgotten what you call that illness. I've got Ebola. It was before all that. And while I was there, I took instruction in the Catholic, and then I came back again and said, sort of, here I am, I'm a Catholic now. And so I said, all right, you can come. What now we would call a monther. Anyway, I lasted a week. I didn't last a month, I lasted a week. And I just found it too much, gosh. Then, I thought, anyway, a year later I tried again. I lasted 5.5 months, and then 20 years later I was allowed to come back again a third time, and that was 21 years ago. Well, before the first time I was a student studying philosophy and English at Dundee. Although actually at that time it was a college of St Andrews, so it was actually the first year that it was an independent, I was going to say an independent monastery, an independent university. Anyway, that's by the way. Before the first attempt, I went on VSO. Before the second attempt, I was 6 months working as a trainee forestry worker. And then after my second attempt, for a short while, I worked in a fish freezing plant, and then for a while I worked in as a kitchen porter in kitchen porter in Kyle of Lochhouse British Rail Hotel. It was one of the British Rail Hotel, British Railways it was then. Shows you how long ago it was.
Living the simple life in the monastery, prayers are one of the most important aspects. Several times a day, the bells are rung to signal the start of prayers.
Yeah, we have 3 bells. They were installed in 1954, I think, or thereabouts, because the tower was only re-roofed in 1954. The large bell is dedicated to Our Lady. The medium-sized bell is dedicated to St John the Baptist, and the small bell dedicated to St Andrew. They're the 3 patrons of the monastery. They came originally from different places, so they were recast to tune them to each other, because if you sound all the bells together, their harmonies should link up. So the largest bell is an F. The next one up is the octave above that, and the smallest bell is like a middle C. Yeah, you might wonder why there are 4 ropes. Because the largest bell is on a wheel. It can be swung up, but there's also an extra clapper that rings the bell from the side, so that you can sound individual strokes. So there are actually 2 clappers for the one bell. But if you try and ring them at the same time, you'll smash one of the others, because the side clapper would be destroyed by the bell turning. The individual one is used for when we sound the bell for the Angelus, which we do after Lauds and after midday prayer and after Vespers. The Angelus prayer commemorates the Incarnation, and the bell rings for 3 sets of 3 strokes, 1, 2, 3, and then we pray a Hail Mary, and then finally, there's one long thing of 33 strokes for the prayer of the Angelus. So we do that 3 times a day. The largest bell comes originally from Llantoni Priory in Wales. It was one of the first monastic foundations made in the Anglican Church in the late 19th century. And the last monk of Llantoni became a monk on the island of Caldy with the Anglican community there. He was the last monk of Llantoni, so he effectively owned it, and he brought it to Caldy, as it were. Now, when the monastery was eventually sold, but the bits and pieces the Caldy community took, including the bells, and the bells were just lying around until Pluscarden was founded, and they gave us 2 of the bells. They were recast, as I say, but in actual fact the last monk of Llantoni, that's Dom Asaph Harris, was also the first monk in our cemetery, because he came up here in the 1950s and he was the first monk to die here. So he died in 1960 and is buried in our cemetery. But the bell was his originally, so but it's a very fine bell. It was dedicated to St Bernard when it was at Lantoni, but it's, as I say, it was recast. It's now dedicated to Our Lady. If you go up to the bell tower, you'll see that the bells always have an inscription on them. It tells them all about what, you know, their dedication and where they live.
Since filming, the Abbey has been granted permission for the last restoration that will allow for a new library to be built, plus new accommodation for women, allowing them to stay under their roof for the first time in 800 years. The monks have already begun to raise funds for the restoration, and along with their mascot, their trusty black and white cat, they continue to live a happy, quiet life. If you're interested in helping the Abbey or would like to donate towards the restoration, please email Brother Michael at bromichael@pluscardenabbey.org. Thank you and God bless.